Hi guys, I wanted to come on and talk all things unit studies and sort of my plan for the year. So the way we're currently doing it and how I imagine we'll do it throughout the year is to spend 6 weeks on a unit study subject. The way I've done it this year is I have gone through ones that interest me or that I feel would interest my children and then let them kind of pick one or two each. So these are kind of the ones that I've gone through, but campfire curriculums, basic car maintenance. So my youngest is super into mechanics, and so I noticed they had one, but I felt that only he would be interested, maybe my 8-year-old, but also I worried that it was a bit too grown up for him. So I was kind of like, how can I figure this out? And then I found on The Good and the Beautiful, they have one called Motion and Simple Machines. So I've basically thought of a unit study called Moving Things. So it's going to all be like mechanics of things. And that would be for all three of them. And then I did see the, it's called like Science for Little Hands or something, by The Good and the Beautiful. And the first one is Sparks and Stars, but it's not just about space, it's about a lot of things. And I have considered that if there was a point where I felt the older two were doing something more advanced that he maybe wouldn't be included in, that we could start their curriculum for that, but that's still sort of and ahhing. I just thought it looked really beautiful, and I mean, they're going to be beautiful, most of their stuff does. Sorry, I felt my lighting was really off, so I've just shut the curtain to see if that's better. So one that I've already purchased from Campfire Curriculums but we didn't do last school year was natural medicine. That's something that really interests me personally, but also I think it would be a really good one for the children to learn about, like what they put into their body and the impact it has on their health and well-being. And then there's also The Good and the Beautiful have Wind and Waves, which is the other one for younger years, and they also have Weather and Water. And then I believe the Waldock Way has one on weather. My eldest is really not interested in like the oceans, marine biology type thing, but weather is a different subject completely. So I had also written down marine biology, but she's really not into that. Then veterinarian unit study / animal behaviour. That was one that all three of them I think would be really interested in. Then we also have energy, and I saw this really cool book in a bookshop called See Inside Future Energy by Usborne. I just think there's been lots of questions about that. I think that's really interesting. We also have the Travelling the World series from the Waldock Way and 12 Days of Christmas from the Waldock Way. Then we also have the Usborne for Beginners series. So we've been doing the money one. We've been using the money book for our money unit studies, but there's also economics, business. And I saw this other one from How We Learn called Start Your Own Business. I've also seen this maths one. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a Charlotte Mason inspired one about opening your own business and it running for like 12 months. And that sounds really cool as well. In that series, there's also politics, philosophy, and then we have chemistry and physics. The physics, I would imagine we would utilise during the How Things Work. Then I also saw this really cool one from How We Learn on architecture, and my 8-year-old's super into buildings and things, and we have a book called, I think it's George Clark, using how to make a home book, and it's all about like how homes are constructed. So this is the basis. This is the ideas that I said I would like. I'm interested in my kids learning. Obviously, listening to that is way too much for 1 year, especially the 6 weeks thing. So it was a lot of conversations with the children independently and as a whole. We have done a money unit study, we've done ancient Egypt, we've done our first novel study, and we've done space with my youngest. So the other thing I will say is that the novel study is something I want to continue. So I don't know whether we will do a novel study alongside a unit study or on its own. The way I planned the year was on its own, and I'm wondering whether the history will mean that we delve into other areas of history during the time he's doing the older two are doing a novel study, but we'll just see. But yeah, lots of conversations with the children, and I'll just sort of take you through the ones that we chose. So the first one was Space for my youngest, Charlie and Chocolate Factory novel study for my older two. Then the next unit study we were going to do, and I say we were going to do because I'm still like up in the air, and I'll explain that in a minute, is moving things. Again, incorporating a few different things with that. Then it would be pick your own paw print challenge. Now I'll just explain the weeks on how it's going to work. And then we would do Christmas school. We'd probably do the 12 days at Christmas. I'd probably print off loads of stuff from Twinkle, that kind of thing. Then over Christmas we'd have a rest period, and then in the new year our first new topic would be weather, water, like wild weather, that kind of thing. So then we would do that 6 week, and then we'd have another rest week, and then it would be natural medicine. The next one would be the veterinarian animal behaviour one, and then the final topic, which bear in mind would take us to week 40, which is a really long school year, would be energy or architecture. So undecided. So that was the plan. Now I'm going to be totally honest, we went on a foraging course, session, event, HomeEd one, literally Wednesday of this week, and it was so fascinating. The kids found it really, really interesting. I found it super interesting. I learned so much. We found death cap mushrooms, which are like super poisonous. We found this mushroom that lactates, like milk type. Just so cool, so cool. And as I was walking through the woods, I was like, I would love to know all of these plants and trees, and I just don't. My youngest saw an alive real slow worm, which is just insane. And he didn't know what it was. And so I don't know how I would do it, but I have got this really strong pull to do a unit study on British wildlife and plants, trees, everything to do with our country and the wildlife and the things that grow here. And yeah, I don't know how I would do that, but I'm almost thinking, while it's fresh in my mind, this thought and this urge, and while the weather's still not super bad, because it will get worse here, it will be so wet, and cold, and it might snow and all of this, do we do that as our next unit study and moving things? I also say that because my 6-year-old was obsessed with moving things and everything, and we got a few books from the library and stuff, and it's kind of fizzled out, which happens, and that's fine. I'm sure if I said, do you want to do it, he would still be like, yeah, I want to do it. But yeah, I'm just thinking whether I should do that. And if you are UK based and you have done any unit studies or any advice on me, for me, that would be really, really helpful, because I just don't know where to start. We have got some really beautiful books. Like, we've got this really, really old book called like The British Countryside, and it has like pictures of like buds and nuts and leaves and all sorts of ways of identifying things. And I imagine it will just be a lot of trips to the woods and stuff, and a lot of books. But it's just something I think we should all know more about, like how to identify birds and like trees and different things. So with all of that to say of what my aims for the year was, you have got to go with, I really truly believe you've got to go where the interest lies. And I kind of feel like this is where the interest lies right now. So anyway, let me break it down to you. So for the first 6 weeks, which should have taken us up to the 12th of August. So I want to check my calendar for that. The date is now the 5th. So yeah, this would be the last week, and that is lining up with what we're doing. So we've got one more week of our novel study, easing out of space for my youngest, and then ancient Egypt as well, pretty much done with that. So then we would have a rest week, which is the week of the 13th to the 19th, school week, that's not the full week. And then we would start the next unit study on the 20th of October, and that would run until the 1st, and then the 1st would be a rest week, so the 1st of November. And then I've said, have I got that? No, it wouldn't be the 1st of November, it would be the 1st of December. That's why I've got it. So that 6 weeks period would take us up to the 1st of December, which feels crazy that we're that close to Christmas now. So then we would have a rest week, and then we would go into that paw print challenge. So I was thinking that each child, maybe we could decide together on a paw print challenge to spend the week on. Or would they pick their own thing? I'm not sure. We're just going to think about that. And then we would do Christmas school from the 16th up until Christmas then. Then the week after Christmas into the New Year would be like a rest week over Christmas and up until the 4th of January. And then we would start on the 5th our new subject, which would be weather. And I am super keen on weather. I think that's going to be a really interesting one. So yeah, that is week 19 at that point. And then that would take us all the way up until, so that's February, until the 23rd of February. So we'd have a rest week, and then on the 23rd of February, which is week 26, we would start natural medicine, and that would take us up to, yeah, so the 23rd of February, March. So yeah, April, we would have a rest week again. This might not line up with Easter and stuff, but I'm not going off that, like, because I don't always want to go when all the kids are out of school, because then it means our week that we might want to do things would be super busy. I prefer it to be quiet. Then we do that veterinarian or animal behaviour, which would then take us up probably till the end of the year, but we might fit in energy or architecture right at the end. Now, I know I mentioned novel studies, so I haven't put novel studies on here, but I already know that my 8-year-old wants to do Because of Winn-Dixie next. That's one that Waldock Way offers, and he's loved the style of it, so I think it's like definitely we're going to stick with them. and then I was just going to get up the shop so I can sort of mention the other ones. So he's done Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I was kind of keen maybe on Charlotte's Web, maybe Roald Dahl, because that's another, no, Roald Dahl, BFG, because that's another Roald Dahl, and The Wild Robot. They're kind of the ones at the moment. We could do one of the Christmas ones. She's got A Christmas Carol and The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. She's got those as well, so we might do a Christmas one after we've done because of Winn-Dixie. That's the one he wants to do next. He's picked himself, and that's fine. But yeah, so that is our unit studies. I've done a video on our unit study for space and our money unit study, and obviously I'll do whatever we do next, but I don't know what it's going to be. So I'd love to know, what do you think I should do? So it's between moving things, all about mechanics and stuff, or British wildlife and plants. Even just saying it, I'm like, I want to do that, I want to do that one. Maybe I should do a vote with the kids. Maybe that's the best way to do it. We're always going to have one or maybe two, one that doesn't get what they want, maybe, I don't know. But I will show everything that I get, lots from the library. I'll show like our plans for it. Yeah, so that is our unit studies and kind of our year as a whole included in that. That week of rest every 6 weeks, so the 7th week, was an idea I got from a friend of mine, a home ed mum. She does that. She almost treats it as like the Sunday, you know, like every that's a day of rest, a week of rest. But she also does a lot of baking and stuff, and like resets her house, and they might do some trips out instead of bookwork and things. I don't know how it's going to work with clubs. That's the only thing, because our weeks are so club heavy at the moment. I just don't know how I'm going. Do I just not turn up? Just pay for that week, not turn up? Do I still do clubs? I don't know how I'm gonna, because at the moment we've only got 1 day a week where there's no clubs on. So to make it a week of rest, that's not really a week of rest, is it? But we'll just see. But I'm really keen to break it up in that way. I feel like it feels like we've done a good chunk of work in this last 5 weeks, and so this week, last week, that we can just finish things off. My husband's got a few days off this week as well, which will be nice, and then have a week of rest. I've got my MOT that week, so hopefully we've got a car. But yeah, so that is everything for unit studies. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing for your unit studies. I love to hear about unit studies. I love them. I think read alouds are so powerful. Just sitting on my chair reading to the kids, they learn so much. So that is everything we're hoping to do this year, and obviously it will change. Like I said, I'm not even sure we're going to do that one next, the one that I've planned next. Thankfully I've not purchased anything, but yeah, that is everything. And I would have, like, I've got like a whole sheet with everything that I would either purchase or books I'd get from the library, and I've like listed documentaries, TV, like everything, like already. Sorry, I'm so full of cold. Everything like ready for it, apart from actually purchasing anything. So to pivot, it's just the way that home ed goes. But if we do go with moving things, I will be able to share that in a video coming up. But thanks so much for watching. See you again soon.